What is going on, everyone? Mike Singer and Mike Goolsby for this week's Mike Goolsby Show, and we have a superb guest, a recurring guest here on our Notre Dame, our YouTube channel here, cover Notre Dame football, blue and gold, and that's Chris Zorich. So we got a couple of captains and Mike Singer. So I feel a little out of my league, but looking forward to tonight's show, fellas. How you doing, Chris? You doing well?
I don't know. I mean, outside the three of us, I think you have the best background. So I think you're doing well.
Yeah.
Pretty dope. Ghouls, how you doing, my friend?
That puts me in last as far as background, but no, I'm good. I'm good. It's good to see Chris again. Talk some ball.
Been a while.
Yeah. You know, Chris, it's funny because I think the last time we had you on our channel was, I want to say it was like around the time Notre Dame scheduled this game.
Yeah. Yep. It was the announcement. Yep.
Yeah. So were you? What'd you think? And you were there when I texted you if you wanted to join us tonight. You had said that your voice might be gone,
which is why I sound like a cat and a dog like in a fight. So I do apologize about that. But I was out there yelling my ass off.
So what'd you think?
I was excited. I mean, it's not just a game, right? I mean, it was a unique situation. It's something that I think that should go on forever. Hope this is not a one-off. It created a great environment. However, a lot of people were saying, well, why don't they just pay an HBCU a ton of money and then, and play somebody else. But, if you're going to play Northern or if you're going to play Central Michigan, why not play an HBCU?
And then in terms of the who stood out to you, Zorich? What players, position groups, anything you liked, particularly in the game?
Well, unfortunately, I'm just one of those old guys who, for the first two games, I just wanted no injuries. I could care less as long as Notre Dame won. I wanted zero injuries, and these are the games, unfortunately, when the players are a little lackadaisical. The coaching staff could even be sometimes. And, if you're not going 100% every play, something's going to happen. And so, I was just hoping and praying that Freeman would have taken out Hartman like after the first quarter, but I had to wait till another 15 minutes.
Goolsby, I think you might have some more takes on the game. What'd you think?
Well, it's interesting that you were there, Chris. As I was watching the game, I'm like, well, who's the MVP? That's always post-game conversation. And I put maybe the crowd, maybe the fans are the MVP because this wasn't a marquee matchup. Some of those day games, Chris, can be a little stale sometimes at the stadium. It's just a thing. And, based off of watching it off the television, the crowd seemed electric, which is a welcome change at Notre Dame Stadium. Have you seen that atmosphere change from when you were playing kind of in the golden era, through the years in terms of that game day atmosphere in the stadium specifically?
Oh, absolutely, Mike. And it's funny because, when you look at the parking lots, they weren't full. And I was talking to a couple other guys, and, we were kind of expecting maybe 75% full, but, they were almost at, full capacity. And, there's just a couple sections that weren't there weren't a lot of folks, but I mean, the crowd was electric, and I was surprised because when I came to the game, I came in a little late, and I found a parking spot within 3 minutes, and so I was kind of like, this isn't going to bode well for TV. And then all of a sudden, I walked in. The bowl was crowded,
filled up. I love it. Yeah. No, when it was overall, I echo Chris's sentiment in terms of trying to stay healthy. And Chris, doing this, brother, I got to watch these games back a couple times, right? So I watched that damn Navy game 4 times. But,
I was going to say it's like watching film again, right?
You're
not getting yelled at now.
If anybody out there, I would pay money to get that tight copy. I miss getting that tight copy. But the injury thing, I did see Blake Fisher kind of limping off the field at the end. So don't be surprised if you don't, hear something in the news or ask at a press conference about an ankle. But this, Chris, back to the film. what do they say about football or any game? It's never as good as it seems,
Exactly.
and it's never as bad as it seems. So that's where I'm at 2 games into this 2023 season, is maybe it's not as good as it seems, and we'll find out here as the schedule picks up.
Well, I was just getting a little frustrated because after the Navy game, like there was talk, or some people would start talking on social media about, Sam Hartman, he could be in the Heisman hunt. And it's like, first of all, timeout. It was Navy. And it's just, but unfortunately, as Notre Dame fans, when we see something, we get excited about it. We're like literally all in. And so, I'm sure there were T-shirts getting printed up, Hartman for Heisman, after Navy, which is terrifying.
I've got one on order, Singer.
I think this might be one of my favorite things about this whole discussion is when, Drew Pine's your quarterback last year, and Goolsby infamously calls him the jockey, right? A quarterback. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, Goolsby, he speaks the truth. That Goolsby.
Hey.
But then when he says something they don't like, the Irish fans about Hartman, like, hey guys, let's pump the brakes here a little bit. Whatever Goolsby says about Hartman, it's Goolsby's lost his mind. What is he talking about? It's funny that it can be confirmation bias. It's like, oh, Goolsby just is truth until he says something I don't like, and then he's not. So that's why you got to be like me. I just don't like anything Goolsby says. And then
what's your experience, Chris, in terms of being in the media, right? As a podcaster, having your face on screen. What's that experience been like with you in terms of trying to remain objective when talking about a Notre Dame football program?
Well, the one thing that I try and do is I try and be honest all the time. So I was in this. It was kind of a unique experience, but I was on air with my college football ranking show, and my producer was like, "Hey, Brian Kelly just left. He just left Notre Dame," and I was like bullshit, right? I was like, "No way," and he was like, "No, seriously," and he showed me, and I was like, "Oh my God." And I had already had Marcus on when he was a defensive coordinator. And so he was like, so how about your boy? And we're on air. So he's like, how about your boy Marcus? And I was like, absolutely not. There's no way, the head coach at Notre Dame has to have experience. So I went down this list of folks that I thought should at least be considered. And then you fast forward and all of a sudden I was wrong, right? So then I say all this to say that, so when I had Marcus back on when he was the head coach, the first thing I said was, look, you know what? We were on air. Brian left. I said, there's no way you're going to get the job. He's like, Chris, I didn't think I was going to get the job. So I totally understand what you're talking about. So, it's just one of those things where you have to be honest, because as soon as you start kind of, being a homer or, and I don't want to say dishonest, but if you're not kind of exploring every facet, and fans are going to know, right? Because, you were a certain type of player. And so the way I look at it as, like, I kind of cover the same way I played. A lot of emotion, a lot of fun, and just being honest.
Sure. And you've been a part of a championship team. So that's like when we're doing this and even breaking down a Tennessee State, like, you still have to be critical in terms of you've got to look at things through a critical eye.
Sure.
And that lens has to be a championship lens. Is this championship effort? Is this championship execution, championship athleticism? You name it, right?
Well, I used to do that. And I realized, because since it's been 1988, way before you were born.
Singer.
The last time we won. So I can't look at it through that lens anymore. Because, we don't have Joe Moore anymore. We don't have Holtz anymore. And so, like, things that they did because you screwed up in practice, like, they would be arrested for it these days, So, unfortunately, I have to look at it just as objective and just say, hey, this is the way offensive linemen block. This is the way defensive linemen should, is he giving 100% effort? Maybe he's not in this play. But, once you get that perspective, I'm looking at it, and it's like, because I'd be too hard. And that's why I couldn't coach. Like, a lot of people like, Chris, man, you could be a great coach. I'm like, absolutely not. The first day I'd be fired.
It's fair. That's an interesting take, because I've had several ex-players on. I had Aaron Taylor on, who's a teammate of yours, right, Chris?
Yep.
Had Brady Quinn on. Both guys are doing bang out jobs in the media covering college football. Go ahead, Mike.
Shout out to Zibby, by the way.
Shout out to Zibby.
Got himself a nice job. Yeah,
he's coaching at Brown.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Nice.
So he's in the coaching sphere. But I'd ask these two guys, Aaron Taylor and Brady Quinn, like, when you watch college football now, do you look at it as an ex-player? Do you look at it as an analyst, a professional? And both of them are like, no, we're analysts. I take the emotion out of it. And I'm like, damn, maybe I got something to learn.
Well, once you get to that level, you
That's
can't
fair.
throw that inflection. Like the first time I was ever in the press box at Notre Dame, no one told me that, you got to be partial. So I'm sitting up there in the school. I was like, yeah. And everybody looked at me like, you don't belong here. Like, why are you here?
Sure. That's hilarious. So, yeah, but Mike, I thought the game, it was fine. There is a lot of things to clean up. And I just go back to like that, the margin of victory, and we're talking high level, elite, the Georgia, Bama's, Ohio State's, LSU's, the marquee programs of the world. When you get into those games, and that's where we want to be. And that's another thing, Chris. Do Notre Dame fans still think about winning a championship? Has it been that long where that's almost looked at as an impossibility, But that's where I'm critiquing the team. I didn't think the interior line played well. I didn't like our nickel back. I didn't like our return, the kick coverage. These are things
ton of missed tackles.
Yeah, a ton of missed tackles, some bad angles from linebackers. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, we'll clean it up. And it's like, man, you brought Sam Hartman in for a reason. You got to start kind of getting dialed in.
Right. And it's one of those things where, yeah, you'll clean it up, but you're supposed to clean it up against Navy, and you're fortunate enough to have two kind of, let's say, preseason games.
Yeah.
Before you go into NC State, which, you're playing because that's kind of semi-interconference, right? And so now it's like, well, are we ready to go out there and play? And then, oh, by the way, we have hopefully another warm-up game before, we actually really get our metal tested. So it's one of those things where hopefully they can get this button down because, and I wasn't going around counting them as tackles, but there were enough. And there were a couple times where, and I forgot their receiver's name, but I think he either dropped it or he could have a touchdown. And that was like in the first quarter. And then that's when you start to get worried, right? Because when, and this is hard, and Goolsby, and I know it happened to you because it happened to us. It's hard getting pumped up every freaking week, right? And so when you have a huge game going on in 2 weeks and you're playing Navy or Air Force, it's just not the same. Although you need it to be the same, practice needs to be the same, the intensity needs to be the same, it's just not there. And people don't understand it because it's hard, because you're getting 100% every weekend from folks, every weekend. And you have to emulate that 150%, right? The 110%, but it's hard because you're looking going, man, you know what? I got Ohio State in a couple weeks, and I'm playing a team that hasn't won a Division I FBS game in like 6 years. And so it's hard, but that's the coach's job, right? The coach's job, they need to get on your ass to make sure that you're ready and pumped up to actually play that. And so the intensity level needs to be there. And then the one thing that I hate, and this is kind of after Marshall last year, and this is going to sound weird, but I kind of felt good because I kind of felt the guys were full of themselves because everybody counted Notre Dame out and they almost won. And I think they got back to campus going, hey, we're up there with Ohio State, and they got the shit beat out of them, right? And so I think that was like the best thing that could have happened to them. So you look at this year, and I think that they've realized that, hey, we're going to get everybody's best at any time. And so now I think they're understanding a little bit better. It wasn't perfect, But I think they're understanding a little bit better that they're going to be getting everybody's 110% every week.
I got some things to follow-up questions to ask. You mentioned you could sense that kind of attitude that whereas I said that on this show last year, Singer, like I think that they thought that they were better than they were. And in addition to Chris, I think that Freeman thought he'd had a better like roster than he actually did.
Right.
You know, because they came out hot that first half of that Ohio State game. Like they came out feisty.
And people felt good, man. And I mean, I didn't talk to a lot of the guys, but I heard that they came back to campus and they were confident. You know, a couple of guys may have missed a class or two because they're a little pumped up, you know. And, you know, when it got to be Marshall week, and then, you know, they got behind it, and all of a sudden it's like they're looking around. And you know, you've been there. And, you know, I love talking about leadership because there's so many different ways a person can lead. And the biggest thing for me is I want to see what your team does when you're losing, when the chips are down. Because anybody can be the rah-rah leader, the pump you up, hey, when you guys are winning, right? When you guys are blowing somebody out, everybody's the goddamn leader. But I want to see the guy who's out there taking responsibility when you're down by 2 touchdowns and it's in the fourth quarter. You know, that's where the real leadership comes. And I think that's what hopefully we're able to see this year if that situation ever happens. But again, I referred to kind of last year, I wanted to see those guys step up and just say, you know what, I'll take that responsibility. And I didn't hear this from players when they went out and said, you know, hey, it was my fault. I'll take that blame. Well,
because you touched on, again, a lot of nuggets, dude. A lot of nuggets in there, brother. So you were saying it's the coach's job to fire up. I would tend to, I mean, I guess I agree, but I semi-disagree in terms of like, you know, you've been on some teams with some great, you know, kinship and all that, and been on some great defense, around a bunch of tough motherfuckers. And it's like, we got to hold each other accountable, you know, and some of that's the coaches and some of that's us.
Sure.
And then I think to building off of that, like you're talking about in some of these tough games, you know, Zorich is going to step up on that third and long. Like, I'm making this play, you know, like I'm going to call my own number. And that's what I've questioned in the 3 years that I've been doing this podcast is like, do these Notre Dame kids, these modern Dame Notre Dame, God, we sound old. I sound old saying this.
You don't have the gray hair though.
I do. Yeah. Thanks for noticing. At least I have hair, Chris. Come on now.
That's true. Very
but it's like, who wants to step up and like truly compete? And like when you're in a tough game, that's fun. You know what I'm saying? That's why we're out here. I mean, I'd rather be in a 2021 fist fight than a 40-point blowout personally.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's just my wiring.
You know, it's funny because, you know, kind of going on those lines, like, I mean, so for example, like I hear people, not guys on the team, but I hear people saying, man, you know, it'd be great if Ohio State lost before they played us. And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? Like, you want to play somebody at their freaking best, bro. You want them to be undefeated. You want to play them when they're at their all. And a lot of guys don't understand that, right? And so it's almost like with this generation, and again, this is why I can't coach, it's like guys look for other people to kind of step up and say something. Or it's almost like you have a group of followers. And I'm not talking about.
I feel you. I know what you mean.
But it's like you got people that are waiting for somebody else to say something or to do something. Or the thing I hate is when somebody makes a big play, offense, defense, whatever it is, and then everybody gets excited when like 15 minutes ago the dude made the same tackle, but because you were in the lead, everybody's like, oh, it's okay. Or because you're losing, it was like, oh, well, it didn't mean that much. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, it's almost like it's situational. Like the kids are aware because they're watching the screen, you know, they're watching the Jumbotron to go, okay, well, I know now. Like if you ask me during a game what down and distance it was when the offense was out there, no fucking idea. Like I was like, what? Are you kidding me? But you got like people almost commentating, and it's almost like if they had their phone, they be like doing a selfie, like when the offense is out, like, hey, someone just scored a touchdown. And it's just different, man. It's just different.
No, but that's so funny because I've talked about that. I mean, my co-captain, Derek Curry, tell him I love him all the time. I'll get him on the show one of these days, number 49. Like, he grew up in big-time Texas high school football. And, bro, he got me aligned, 30% of the time. Out there as a junior, I had no idea what was going on. I literally had no idea. It was just flying around. But, yeah, that's so funny because you're just focused on you're just competing, And it wasn't so much of a chess match back then. But, there he is right there.
What's happening to you, Mike? Like, if somebody asks you your name, you'd almost have to, like, think about it. You're like, Mike, yeah, Mike. Because, like, you're so dialed in. And,
what I hated? Chris? You know what I hated? You'd come back to the sideline and coach would be like, what happened on that third? And they'd be like, fuck do I know? What are you asking me for?
That's so true. It's like, dude, you got the film. You had somebody out there, man.
You're the coach.
Getting my ass kicked by somebody, And then I was going to say, for me, on the line, like, literally, I have, like, a fraction of a second to see where this guy's head's going that'll take him to the play. And, like, I don't know shit, and I'll turn around, and very rarely would I be like, hey, it's 4th and 3rd, okay, guys, gets pumped up. Man, I'm sitting there trying to defeat the guy in front of me.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Hey, one thing I wanted to touch on, because having you on the show, when I'm looking at Notre Dame's team, and this is, again, just being critical, looking at it through like a championship lens, forgive me, everybody, but like Blake Fisher, our right tackle, like, he's good. And he was a 5-star, and, we rarely get 5 stars, and, like, you got to kind of treat him with kid gloves. It's tough to be, objective in terms of it. Like, he hasn't been playing great. And I'm like, man, could you kick him into the guard? He's going to play guard in the NFL. He doesn't have the feet to play tackle.
Okay.
And could you put Emil Wagner at right tackle, who's an elite athlete? He's a little on the smaller side, Chris, younger. How do you weight just talent versus experience? What matters more to you if you were to put together a team? Just raw ability versus experience. We've got a linebacker, Jalen Sneed. Incredible, violent player. He's still a little bit learning the game, but it's like, man, we got to get that talent on the field. Right. What do you think?
And I come from that old school method of, and again, this was kind of during that Holtz period where, he brought in these amazing athletes, and I'm sure they had on their whiteboard what they were going to do. But, like, I was a linebacker, and I went to the same high school that Dick Buckus went to. So, like, I wanted to be the best freaking linebacker in Notre Dame, but I guarantee that on their whiteboard, they were like, his fat ass is going to be down on the line, right? But you look at Todd Light. Todd Light came in as a receiver. He wound up getting drafted, I think, in top 5 as a corner, All-American, should be in the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. You got Andy Heck, came in as a tight end, was an amazing offensive tackle. Frank Stamps came as a fullback, defensive end, All-American. So I came from the era where guys wanted to be on the field, and they were willing to do anything, right? So my best friend, who I just talked to yesterday, his birthday was a couple days ago, Tim Ryan. He came in from Kansas City, Rockhurst, as a linebacker with me, and his ass was offensive guard. I mean, the whole squad, like, there were the majority of guys that were playing early for Holtz, they had actually switched positions. And so I'm of that generation where let's put the best athletes out there that'll help us win. Now, like you're saying, again, a new generation, if you move somebody, are they going to transfer? If you move somebody, are they going to leave the team? And I think that's up to the coaches to hopefully implement that mentality of, like, we're a team here and it takes X amount of people to make this successful. I want you to be part of it, but I think you're going to be a better DB than you're going to be a receiver. And Todd Light was not happy, but guess what? I mean, he played the Super Bowl. I mean, he really accomplished a lot. And so when you think about that, that's the mentality that I come from. So if somebody needs to move in order for the betterment of the team, then it has to be done.
So you're saying, look, we'll take you, for example, you're recruited as a linebacker, they sold you that pipe dream, right?
Right.
You're going to come here and play Mike.
And I heard that Bo Schembechler was going to make me a nose guard. So I was like, I'm not even take a visit there because I don't want to play. I don't want to play on the D line.
So Bo was honest with you, and you were like,
right. I was like, I'm out that way. Sorry, Bo.
Hook, line, and sinker. They got you. It's a good recruiting, though. That's good recruiting. Yeah, you see that they'll recruit some, white tailback, and like day one training camp shows up. It's like, here's your defensive playbook, son. You're playing safety or whatever it is. But again, to these examples that you're citing, Chris, these are younger guys that kind of beat out more experienced guys just because they had more ability.
Sure.
That's what we're saying?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, it was, but they're also willing to, right? Because again, different generation, but I mean, you had Ricky Waters. He moved from receiver to running back to receiver. I mean, he was moving all around, and we were successful. And so that's, and then he goes in the pros. He should be in the Hall of Fame as a tailback. He had an amazing career, right? But it was, are you willing to help the team win and not be selfish and say, hey, I should be a right guard versus, but hey, the damn man tackler, or whatever the situation would be.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because why even there's a defensive lineman. Mike, you with me? You're muted.
I'm here, brother.
Tyson Ford's from Chicago, right?
St. Louis.
Sorry. We got a defensive lineman, Tyson Ford, and you could just see it, Chris. Like this kid puts on 20, 30 pounds. He's going to be a long, athletic 3. But Tyson wants to play strong side end. And it's like he's going back and forth. And it's like, Chris, your future's at 3. And the coaches are letting him move back he lost weight, right? When do you hear of a college defensive lineman losing weight?
Right.
And those coaches are doing that to kind of just satiate him for another year. But it's like, you're delaying the inevitable. Get back inside.
Well, and let's hope, right? So let's hope that they feel that he's young enough that they're going to try him out, at this other position, and let him realize, hey, and that's really the thing, right? It's when you get that taste of being out there playing, like, I mean, I got moved before I even stepped foot in the stadium, and so I was just like, okay, sure, I'll move to nose guard. The hell's a nose guard, But I did it because Holt said that it's going to make our team better. So I was like, great, I'm in, and then I was grateful because then I could start eating actual meals instead of salads because I was trying to be a svelte linebacker.
I get it.
If I may, Ghouls,
please.
We got to pay some bills and then hear from a sponsor real quick. So let's go ahead and this is a good one. Homefield's one of the coolest sponsors we have. It's based out of Indy. And they have officially licensed comfortable clothing. I've got a couple of their items. I'm not wearing it right now.
Do people sell non-comfortable clothing? I'm just wondering.
I'm sure it exists, but that's not Homefield. And the best thing about Homefield is their designs, the Notre Dame designs in particular. Goolsby knows I love this Notre Dame tennis crew neck. That they have that I will get one of these days. They really went back into the archives, the old school Notre Dame designs.
Nice.
And what they've created is very unique and thoughtful. It's authentic and really shows the nostalgia of Notre Dame. Can't wait to see you folks wearing your home field apparel at Notre Dame. I actually had someone message me on the message board over the weekend. They said, hey, I'm coming up for the Ohio State game. What's that website again? And what's your promo code, folks? It's homefieldapparel.com. And the promo code is BlueGold23. You'll get 15% off your first purchase. So maybe you're looking to get something for yourself. And then God forbid, if you have like a Michigan or Michigan State fan in your family or something, you can even get them something too. Over 150 colleges, they have licenses to make gear for the different colleges. So be prepared for this fall by shopping today at homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code BlueGold23. And receive 15% off your purchase. So just a quick note for folks watching live. I am enjoying this banter back and forth with the former Notre Dame captains here. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on super chats, but we're going to go through these real quick, Mike. Go Irish. Said Ben Morrison's influence so far He's played every defensive snap, hardly hear his name. What do you see so far that isn't obvious to us? Where I go for? I'll add, Mike, just my quick 2 cents. Probably a good thing, right? I mean, Notre Dame, no one's really testing Notre Dame down the field. I mean, it's not a bad thing. I mean, but
Tennessee State tried him a couple times, and he looks sharp. He looks great. My concern, and Ben Morrison's probably going to be a first-round pick to answer that question. As far as influencing a game, you're going to be playing Myron Harrison Jr. in a couple weeks, so just grab your popcorn for that.
Hope so. He got injured. Someone can let me know what the status of him is. I just know he came up.
Oh, fascinating. My concern was Cam Hart, the opposite corner, number 5, Zorich. Yeah, he's a 5th-year player. You and I are kind of wired similarly, Chris. For whatever reason, it's just like I watch Cam Hart play, and I'm like, that's a kid that thinks he's better than he is. Just in terms of like they kind of leaked a little bubble screen or something against Tennessee State, and he's like in cover 2 coverage, and what should have been a knockout shot, the running back, whatever's looking back, and then he ended up being a missed tackle. I need Cam Hart's play to go up in terms of if this is a championship level team.
Well, and it's one of those things, kind of like what we were talking about before, is if I got a shutdown corner, like on the other side, like at the end of the day, honestly, I'm going to have a field day because they're going to be throwing everything to my receiver, right?
Sure.
And so now I'm going to use the fact that I got this other guy who's going to be, a first round guy in a couple of years. I'm going to use that to my advantage. So now I'm going to go out there. I'm going to stay after practice a little bit. I mean, I'm going to try to hone down my skills because I know, guess what? I'm going to be the guy that they're going to be throwing at, right?
Yeah.
Because they got the shutdown corner on the other side. So I look at that as like a great opportunity. And again, I don't know kind of his mindset, but that's kind of my mentality. It was like, hey, this would be great. Like when we had kick-ass offensive line or we had a great running back, and it was almost a challenge that you had to accept on your own. And again, at the end of the day, you are the only person to know if you actually did well or not, right? I mean, yes, you got the film and you got the coaches that are going to be on your ass, but you need to be able to say, hey, I want to accept this challenge. And if he's talking about maybe going on to the next level, he's going to see that every day anyway.
Well, he's an NFL talent, NFL dimensions. He's an ex-wide receiver. He's a captain. But I'm just like, you can gauge that kind of energy that comes through your screen or it doesn't. And I just don't feel that alpha energy from Cam. And it's going to be a long season. It's a contract year for him. He's a 5th-year senior. He's going into the league. So, I just want to see more electric play from him. What's the next one, Mike?
All right. Andrew says, don't want to derail the conversation, but Goolsby had some strong message board takes on Dion. I would love to hear his opinion over the win on TCU. So I'm going to go, and I'll see you guys back in 15 or 20 minutes when you guys are done discussing Deion Sanders. So you boys go ahead.
Chris, do you want to kick this one off? What do you think about Dion?
So I am not a fan of the way he's done what he's done. I'm all for former players having opportunities to be coaches, but I can't see a coach going into a new program and literally in the first team meeting saying, hey, none of you guys are going to be here. I mean, the challenge of a coach, and again, I know these are totally different times. The challenge of a coach would be, hey, let me take this 1-11 team and make them champions. But that's not the conversation. The conversation was, look, y'all were 1-11, y'all suck, I'm bringing my own people in. Mm-hmm. Now, again, I'm old school, so for me, like I learned leadership, I learned lessons from my coaches. And I'm not going to learn leadership from a guy who's going to walk in and say, hey, you guys are one, and because apparently no blame went to the former coaching staff. It was all you guys, everybody in this room. So that's kind of my take is that, I want to see former players have success, which I was amazed. I mean, I watched the whole game. It was amazing. But it's just the way he did it, I'm not a very big fan of.
Yeah. So do you respect it, though?
Respect the process or respect what he's done? Respect what?
Like, so I might not be a fan of something, but I respect it.
Mhm.
Is that what I'm hearing you say, or am I putting words in your mouth?
Well, you're putting words in my. I mean, I don't like the process,
Okay.
and so anything that kind of resulted from doing something negative, even though it's positive or negative, that I'm not a fan of. Like, I mean, I think again, former player having success, that's great, and it's obviously great for those kids. I mean, being 1-11, but none of those kids are there anymore.
Yeah.
And so I would have felt better. And again, I'm not in a situation. Deion has to win. I mean, I understand that. But again, I come from a different cloth where my coach, what I was used to is Holtz walking in there, which he almost did. Like Notre Dame was 5-6 when Luke Holtz came in. In the 3 years, he won a national championship. And so I would envision Holtz coming in there and, kicking ass, maybe kicking some guys off teams. But he would have took those same guys who were in that locker room that won 11
and build them up.
Exactly. So that's my only thing.
No, that's an interesting take. And to the question, Andrew, I don't remember what my strong take was, but I think it was something to the effect of like, you got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, nobody saw this coming. I understand why people don't like Deion Sanders, the man, the arrogance.
Sure.
But I'm just such a fan of like excellence. I mean, he was an all-timer. I mean, almost one of a kind as an athlete, as a persona. Absolutely. He's one of a kind.
Absolutely.
And he's almost like a pro wrestler. It's like he took pro wrestling into professional sports, right? Sure. Like mainstream professional sports. And I don't know if that's a hot take or whatever, but again, sometimes you don't have to approve of anything. If he's not breaking any rules or doing anything out of bounds, he changed the team's oil. It's like, we got dirty old oil. It's like, I'm just going to flush the system. We're going to bring in some new blood. You might not be a fan of it, but it worked.
Changed the tires and changed the seats. I mean, he changed everything in that son of a bitch. Everything.
Hey,
everything.
It's running good, though.
That was one of about 60 things he changed.
Yeah.
All right, another one here from a Go Irish. She says, Parker got praised for play calling in game one. Anything stand out about his play calling in game two, better/worse than game one? Concerns heading into serious football. Mike?
You're building. There's a few different formational things. Same personnel groupings. He went 10 a couple times. He still likes empty. There's still, we said this before, in so many ways, it's still Coach Reese's offense. Like he's going 5 wide. Everybody's running stop routes. It's like, I hate that. Get rid of it. Let's go vertical, run up the seams, things like that. Couple new running plays. You see a couple guard pulls. Week one, it was a counter. This week, not so much. A little bit more outside zone. So he's building. But yeah, I think he's got the tight ends involved this week. The big thing is like the splash plays. Like if you go back to like Bama's scoring drives, like one play, 47 yards, another drive, 2 plays, they go 50 yards in 2 plays. We saw a few more chunk plays in the run game this week, 20-yard, 30-yard-ish type runs. But that's what, going back to Chris, looking at this thing through like a championship lens, those championship elite programs, modern day football, like splash play. That's what we kind of want to see, the Tobias Merriweather, the whole thing. We want to see Sam Hartman push the ball. So maybe he's still keeping that whole
kind of what you mentioned. Apparently, we didn't know, but we had an amazing kick-ass offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, right? No one knew it, except Nick Saban.
What did you think about Coach Rees
I wasn't impressed. And so, and again, I mean, I'll be honest, I was freaking amazed when he became the offensive coordinator. I mean, I was like, and apparently I don't know Jack because obviously Nick Saban knows a hell of a lot more than I do. And, he kind of saw some opportunities there, but I was like, what does he see that I don't? That's amazing.
Interesting. Well, let's dig because I think I got something here. So I liked Coach Rees. I didn't like him as a recruiter with quarterbacks. I didn't.
Right.
I do think that Brian Kelly kind of hamstrung Rees Kelly liked a certain type of like 3-star kind of like meh quarterback. That's what Kelly liked.
Right.
We could talk about Coach Reese's development, but in terms of play calling,
well,
I didn't think it was bad. Last thought, I didn't think it was bad. And then you have to look at like the assemblage of talent that he had. Again, he had a jockey, should have been on the back of a horse, and he's playing quarterback for Notre Dame. I thought he made lemonade out of the lemons that he was given. You know what I mean?
And I agree with that. But I think what Tommy needed, which is what he did, I think he needed to get out of that Notre Dame bubble, right? Because, I mean, he was handpicked by Brian and literally went from QB coach to offensive coordinator. And everybody's like, what the hell? How is this happening? And I think that in order for him to go on to his career, I think he needed to kind of get away from Brian, even when, apparently Brian made that offer to go to LSU. Like, he needed to get away from that. And so I was impressed that he stayed with Marcus because he needed to kind of I thought the motivation behind that was I need to get it from under Brian Kelly because, like, I'm literally going to be pigeonholed in his freaking offense.
Yeah.
Part of the thing when you hire Freeman as head coach was keeping the band together. And from that 2021 Brian Kelly staff, everyone is gone except for Chris O'Leary and Mike Mickens. But it's kind of crazy.
Even the strength coach is gone.
Strength coach is gone. Yeah.
So yeah, this is Marcus Freeman's program. Marcus Freeman's program. But you're right. Brian Kelly was Tommy Reese's daddy, and I think he's got a new one down there in Bama. And
oh boy, he got it. It's funny because when all that shit was going down in Northwestern, his name popped up, right? And I think he was like a GA there for like 10 minutes or some shit like that, which is crazy, right? And I'm pretty sure that Nick called him off and said, listen, these are my offensive coordinators in the last 7 years.
Yeah.
They're all at SEC teams and the coaching, or even better, right? Or if not there, they're somewhere else. So if your dumbass goes to Northwestern because you were there for 5 minutes, I'm going to fire your ass right now. Stay here. Your ass will be an SEC coach in a couple of years.
Or go to the NFL. And I think that's where ultimately, if you look at, a guy that doesn't probably love to recruit. And I've talked to Coach Reese on the phone a handful of times. And, bro, he's like 31 going on 65. Like, he is like a salty – he's like a curmudgeon at like 30. I'm like, bro, relax. But, I think he wants to go to league and just, sit in a dark room and draw up offense.
But wouldn't you, right? I mean, if you weren't a recruiter – I mean, like, isn't that – and that's like the ultimate job, right? Because once you become an NFL coach, you're there for life.
Mm-hmm.
Even though there's 32 teams, you're going to get recycled for about the next 30 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's interesting, too, because, God, that's so true. Because it's like, I can't think of any old coach. But, yeah, it's like these coaches, he's at the Chargers. Now he's at the Redskins.
How about McNulty was kind of like that before getting to Notre Dame?
Christ. But now the NFL's got this new crop of younger coaches that have come in, and they'll stick around for the next 30 years.
Right. And then, like, Tom Reese, offensive coordinator there, then it becomes he'll be the tight end coach for the Saints. And then from there, he'll be, the quarterback coach for the Ravens. And then he'll get an opportunity, and then it might not work out, but then he'll be the offensive coordinator for the Browns. And
he'll get a DUI. He'll get a DUI, and then he'll be the quality control guy, or he'll be the special assistant.
Hey, man. Hey, Saban is a safety net. Thank God for Saban, man, because you look at, I think last year, College Game Day, or maybe it was 2 years ago, they did like a little segment on kind of like, it was almost like Second Chance U, right, for coaches. And there was a list of like 8 coaches that had fucked up somewhere and literally went to Nick and became a quality control guy after making like $8 million. And then literally within 3 years, he's the offensive, or he's the head coach at USC or something.
I think Sarkisian's one of them.
Yep. And then it was the guy from Maryland. That head coach, he had actually beat the shit out of one of his assistant coaches when he was at New Mexico or something like that. Bounced around a little bit, went over to the house of Saban, And then in a couple of years, he was an offensive, or he was the head coach at a Big Ten school.
Yeah. Saban takes them all in, you know.
Hey, man, somebody has to.
Yeah.
Please drink responsibly, folks.
There you go.
All right. Trash says the refs were trash. When Hardman flipped into the end zone, I held my breath. What is with the gold captain patch for Joe Alt and Bertrand? I want to bring up the refs thing. Mike, I don't know if you guys watched. I mean, you were at the game, Chris. I don't know if you guys. No, the Antonio Carter one. We're gonna pull this up.
Okay.
Copyright be damned.
So I'll set it up as you're pulling it up there, Michael. So I think it was our first kick return. Well, you were there, Chris, right? Our first kick return.
I'm sorry. I'm talking about the Carter one. That's the Ford one.
No, I think you can't talk about Carter being ejected without the missed targeting against us early in the game. Is that fair?
Yeah. The Ford one I thought was targeting too.
So I mean, kick return. Our kick returner's coming. He gets double pinched and gets knocked out of the game. Poor kid. Fast forward, this happens.
But you tell me, like, everyone in the chat yesterday in our post-game show was like, that Carter thing was not. And I'm like, okay, but when you see this replay, he did kind of hit the shoulder, but then you see him hit the head. Like, I'm not saying I agree with the rule, but like by the rule, like that looks like targeting to me, right?
That's targeting.
Mike, as a defensive player, I mean, you're going in there, you may have your eyes set, dead set on this dude's shoulder.
That's targeting.
Mm-hmm. And he makes his move, and all of a sudden, instead of you hitting your shoulder, you're hitting his head. I mean, it's bullshit. I mean, I have a huge issue with targeting defensive players in college and the NFL. It's ridiculous.
Totally with you. They should change the rules. Targeting 1, targeting 2. This would have been, in my opinion, this is either no targeting or a targeting 1. And if you get 2 targeting 1s, you're out. Or if you just have a straight targeting 2 where it's super blatant, you're out. But to me, like, just again, probably not targeting, sure. But, like, I mean, people on the message board last night were like, there is no other explanation than the refs were in cahoots to go get Notre Dame. They're like hell bent on this. And I'm like, how can you look at this, what I have on the screen, and say 1,000% without a doubt, I will give my life, I'll put my life on the line to say that by the rules, this is not targeting. When you see that, I just, am I living in the freaking Twilight Zone? Like,
well, but also being part of the media, you're able to kind of freeze it here.
And
which, if you
this is from TV, this is what they did. This is what they did on TV.
Well, no, but I'm saying if you get the right angle, really, and this is the lawyer part coming out on me. I mean, anybody can make it look like targeting, right? If you slow it down, slow enough.
But if it's there, it's there. I don't know. I'm not saying that it was, but I'm just saying to put your whole life on the line to say, oh yeah, that was not. I mean, there's enough there to say, I mean, maybe, but I don't know. I guess that's the.
I think it's targeting. I think obviously.
Ooh, Goolsby's not true anymore.
The penalty is so stiff, Chris. They're trying to like completely eliminate it from the game. Like you're going to miss time. You're going to do time, ostensibly. If you, but yeah, the rule probably.
Which is shitty because if you're a senior, your last game your senior year, first quarter, first half, you go in for tackle and the running back puts his head down further. I mean, you're out. Like it's bullshit.
Yeah. No, I just. There's got to be a better way.
For doing something, but I think what we're not looking at is what is the offensive player doing as well, right? If we're seeing them blatantly put their head down, kind of lean into it, then, is that fair?
I don't know.
Because if I'm a running back coach, I'm going to say that anytime somebody's running towards you, fucking put your head in there so you can be targeted.
I was never Chris, you've been around football, you've been in the league. Like some guys have that innate ability that last, 2 inches before contact where they can, pop people. I never had the ability to do that.
I didn't. No.
I was a pretty good tackler. So I never really had a big hit like that. But yeah, you gotta. There's more to it where you got to have more shoulder in it. I mean, these plays with these guys is where their heads are extended like a missile. That's a bit of a red flag where they're going to call the targeting. My biggest thing with targeting is just how it screws up the flow of the game. It's like, all right, buddy, ref, you're on the clock. You got 90 seconds to make a determination here. This waiting 5-6 minutes, it just kills me. I hate it. It's not good for the players either.
Yeah.
But also, fellas, it's Tennessee State. Who gives a shit? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's move on,
Or we cannot move on. Because your boy's just risking it for the biscuit here.
Fine. Oh, he's playing it.
Yeah, this is not what I like to do, but YOLO. Maybe I'll try to I just don't want to get copyrighted. But
so this isn't targeting to me, Chris, because he's running the ball.
Right.
He's not a defenseless player.
Right.
He's running the ball. This is pretty routine to me.
All right.
Pretty routine.
Yeah, that looks pretty damn clear. Right. That seems to me right there more targeting than the Carter
Yeah,
one.
and I agree. But,
you do?
but
I'm on the complete.
But just look at the head. It's the head contact.
Here's the thing. That defensive player on the left, right? Yeah, on the left. He's not going in for his head. He's trying to put his head across the bow, and the person with the ball is leaning forward. That's how I see it. And then, again, this is one of those things where he's going to come in. So right here, he's not looking at that dude's helmet. He's trying to get his whole body across, and see his head's going to go to. Again, this is the defensive players.
That to me isn't targeting. And I'll say this for all the fans that think that's targeting. Zorich, I can't imagine you ran down a kickoff team beyond high school. But
I did my first couple of years in the league. I had to make the team,
You did? You ran down at what'd you weigh back then?
Well, I was on kick return, but that's
okay. That's a different story. But that wedge doesn't play either. If you were on the wedge, I assume.
Right, that's true.
But I mean, you've got to, fans, if you're watching, you've got to be brave to run down on kickoff, and to make a tackle like that is not an easy thing to do. You have to be brave to do that. I mean, that was a nice tackle. That wasn't targeting to me. It just wasn't.
I wish it wasn't, but I think that was just the head. I mean, head-to-head contact now is targeting all the time, right? On a tackle. So, but I'm with you guys.
I'm sure if you had an offensive guy here, I'm sure he'd have a little different perspective.
Yeah, Singer was 5th team all-conference wide receiver in high school.
Oh, snap.
Hey, Zorich, Patrick asked a little bit earlier in the show, are you still going to do the top 16?
Oh, speaking about that, yes, we are. Our first show is going to be tomorrow. It's the Super 16 poll show, and you'll be able to see it on my YouTube channel.
Which I am pulling up right here for folks. So if you are not following Chris Zorich, he's only got 2.75K YouTube subscribers. We got to get that up to 3,000 tonight.
That
actually
sounds good
yesterday.
To me. I'd appreciate that.
So yeah, just if you YouTube search Chris Zorich, he'll show up. So it's a live stream, right?
Yes, and it's a great opportunity to kind of see us. We have a great time. Phil Toshin is my producer sidekick, and he's a great coach in himself. But the idea that we're able to kind of break down the top 16 teams, it's awesome. Yeah. And I got a lot of shit last year because I was really honest about Notre Dame. I didn't put them in the top 10 until I thought they belonged.
And then we got one more thing for you to plug, Zorich.
Yes.
miniclover.com.
Where I'm actually at now. So I am actually sitting doing this interview from the Mini Clover, which is a great opportunity for folks. They're interested in hanging out. We got we're open for Central Michigan and Wake Forest still. Everybody else, we're all booked. But it's a great opportunity. And what makes our place a little unique is I'm the person that's going to check you in, and I'm going to hang out with you for an hour. And all that stuff that you showed Mike earlier that was on the table is all the stuff that I autograph for folks. So a couple jerseys, helmet, football, all that stuff I'll sign for you. Have a great all that stuff I'm going to sign for you. So, and you can see, like, if you reverse the table, that's where I'm actually sitting right now. So I'm singing all my glory.
I love it. So check it out, folks.
Mike, this is the old version of trying to get some NIL money.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's so funny.
Miniclover.com, Sleep 6. I mean, that's patio.
We got a fire pit and everything. It's a great opportunity, man.
I love it, man. It's such a good for you, dude. It's very smart. Yeah. Very smart to do this. Thoughts.
I wish I could take all the credit, but it was my wife's idea.
Well, I need to get I had your number from when we hung out in Japan, and I don't know if you got a new number or what, or I think I got your number, but I want to get in touch with you.
Absolutely.
Do you remember that night in Japan, by the way?
I'm going to say no. I remember half of it.
Perfect.
That makes sense. Jack Daniel.
Makes about sense.
Yeah.
The YouTube channel, Chris, as a YouTuber myself, folks, go subscribe to the page, like the videos. Like, a lot of effort goes into this stuff. There's no reason Chris shouldn't have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10,000 followers.
Well, thank you. Well, hopefully now on your show, that might happen now.
I'm telling you, man. Any YouTube video I watch, brother, that's like interesting or helpful, like, I'll like it. I mean, I probably subscribe to 2,000 things on YouTube. What do I care? You're supporting somebody else.
That's because you're in it. Like you understand it. You have understand that YouTube algorithm. That folks got to realize and say, I need to like it and subscribe, and the folks I'm watching will get that credit and everything else. So
and you're not going to get like spam emails. Just subscribe to it. I forgot what my second thought was going to be. Oh, I was going to ask you at the Mini Clover, do you charge extra to greet them in a kilt, or is that just like the base price?
The kilt. Okay, see that's interesting. Interesting. So that started last year because I was fortunate enough to do the NBC alumni broadcast after we got our ass kicked by Marshall. I did that, and I wanted to kind of shake things up. So I actually put the kilt on and thought that might be a tradition, which I was going to do. But this game, it was fucking 90 degrees outside, and there was no way I was going to put on a wool 100% wool kilt. Sorry.
Okay.
But no, so that is not. However, I'm not going to sell my soul. But if they make a special request for the kilt, for an extra couple of ducats, maybe
everything's negotiable. Everything's negotiable. That's right.
I love it.
All right. Hey, I want to go watch this LSU FSU game. I got to hurry up and root against Brian Kelly.
All right.
Damn, that was a horrible segue, man. Jesus, you need to get better segues, man.
Yeah, that's Singer's job.
I feel a cramp coming, so I gotta head out.
Go.
Okay, that's worse. That's Mike. I like this better, Goolsby.
Well, boys, fantastic show, Chris. You are welcome anytime.
Thank you much.
Goolsby, I sent you Chris's number, so you boys get in touch. Yeah, Chris, you are seriously welcome anytime. You are a fantastic guest. But yeah, folks, please do hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out homefieldapparel.com. Please subscribe to Chris Zorich's YouTube channel. Again, just go to YouTube, search Chris Zorich. You'll probably find this podcast or this video, but then you'll find his YouTube channel as well. Theminiclover.com if you want to stay in South Bend. You said Central Michigan. What was the other game, Chris?
Wake Forest. And then we're available throughout the year as well.
So yeah, I mean, you get to meet Chris Zorich. I mean, pretty awesome opportunity there. I think for my B&B, we might have to do a meet for Mike Singer, but I don't think anyone wants to meet.
Hello, I don't know. After this show, I don't know.
Clemson fan. I got a B&B in Clemson. I don't think maybe if I were a Clemson writer, but I am not and never will plan to be. But anyways, yeah, folks.
Mike Singer, you would just charge extra, like they can give you a noogie. That's what you would
then Goolsby will be renting that place often. All right, folks, but that is going to wrap up this edition of the Mike Goolsby Show. Appreciate you guys. Have a safe night, and we'll
Thanks,
catch you
Chris.
next time.
Thanks, guys. Had a good time. It was good seeing you guys.